Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Dhammadava Kuncha Bihari Jaya. Thank you, Prabhu. Jaya Dhammadava Kuncha Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yevathai Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yevathai Yashodanandana Bhajajana Anjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Anjana Yamunatira Vanachai Yamunatira Vanachai Jaya Dhammadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Dhammadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givathai Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givathai Yashodanandana Bhajajana Anjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Anjana Yamunatira Vanachai Yamunatira Vanachai Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, oh Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Shri Radhe. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naham Chaiva Narotanam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasapaye Shabadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatayine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class today. Thank you for attending. Only very few souls have the great fortune of coming to a morning Bhagavatam class. And we should be really grateful for this opportunity. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1. We'll be going through verse 23 all the way to 29. So it's not that many verses today. It's maybe 6 verses. So I'll be going into the purports a little bit of some of the verses as well. But we'll be focusing primarily on verse 29. So just to give a little bit of context, Maharaj Priyavrata, he wasn't sure, should I be brahmachari? Should I be king of the world? And so he had 2 great personalities deliberate, Narada Muni and Swayambhuva Manu. They weren't sure, and so then Lord Brahma, who was their father, came down and decided, you're going to be king of the world. So he's like, all right, that's what I'm doing. Sounds good. So now we'll see what happens after that. So Can we start reading verse 23, please?
Svayambhuva Manu, with assistance of Lord Brahma, thus fulfilled his desires. With the permission of the great sage Narad, he delivered to his sons the governmental responsibility for maintaining and protecting all of the planets of the universe. He thus achieved relief from the most dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires.
I don't think we're reading the same thing. Oh, you read 22. Okay. All right, 23. I thought we were starting 23, but it's okay. We can read 23 now. Okay.
Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrata fully engaged in worldly affairs. Yet he always thought of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are the cause of liberation from all material attachment. Although Priyavrata Maharaj was completely freed from all material contamination, he ruled the material world just to honor the orders of his superiors.
Oh, can we read the first paragraph of the purport, please?
The words Manavardhano Mahatam, just to show honor to superiors, are very significant. Although Maharaj Priyavrata was already a liberated person and had no attraction for material things, he engaged himself fully in governmental affairs just to show respect to Lord Brahma. Arjuna had also acted in the same way. Arjuna had no desire to participate in political affairs or the fighting at Kurukshetra, but when ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord Krishna, executed those duties very nicely. One who always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord is certainly above all contamination of the material world.
So this is very significant here, that we see that Maharaj Priyavrata was such a great king. Why? Because he didn't even want it. He wasn't even looking for it. He wasn't looking for that power or the prestige or the control. And oftentimes a great leader has that qualification that he's not actually desiring that. And a leader can be like a world leader, but it can be in so many different spheres of our life. Even being a parent is being a leader, actually. So he gave the example of Arjuna. And Arjuna, he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to take that responsibility of killing soldiers, especially people that he loved and he cared about. But he still did it because he got direction from spiritual authority. So this is a great lesson that we can follow, is following the orders of the spiritual master. I was thinking when I read this, I have a friend in Toronto. He's a wonderful devotee. His name is Mahabhagavat Prabhu. And he's known as, every community has those like stalwart families that they're just like, okay, this is like Grihastha, the goal that we want to be if we're in Grihastha. He has that kind of family. He has a young boy and his wife. And the boy is one of those kind of wonder child, he's like amazing at Mridanga, and he knows all the shlokas, and he's very humble too. So, but I found out that actually when he got married to his wife, he wanted to be married. He had that desire, that inclination, but he didn't have inclination to have a child. He was not. He's like, I think I'll get entangled, or I'll have, I won't be able to focus on Krishna, my spiritual life. So then he approached his spiritual master and he said, I don't want a child, but my wife does. And what did the guru say? The guru said, well, as a husband, it's your responsibility to give a child to your wife if she wants one. So what did he do? He just humbly accepted the direction, and he's like, okay, then I will have a child, but I will make him, Krishna conscious. And I feel like it made him such a great father because he didn't have that desire to be the boss of the family, or to have somebody that he can mold into his image like that. He just kind of did it as a duty to serve his spiritual master and to serve his wife, who was, great devotee herself. So I thought that was really inspiring. So we can read the next verse, please, verse 24.
Thereafter, Maharaj Priyavrata married Parhismati, the daughter of the Prajapati named Vishvakarma. In her he begot 10 sons equal to him in beauty, character, magnanimity, and other qualities. He also begot a daughter, the youngest of all, named Urjashvati.
Can we go and read the first paragraph of the purport?
Maharaj Priyabrata not only carried out the order of Lord Brahma by accepting the duties of government, but also married Barismati, the daughter of Vishvakarma, one of the Prajapatis. Since Maharaj Priyabrata was fully trained in transcendental knowledge, he could have returned home and conducted the business of government as a brahmachari. Instead, however, when he returned to household life, he accepted a wife also. The principle is that when one becomes a grihastha, he must live perfectly in that order, which means he must live peacefully with a wife and children. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's first wife died, his mother requested him to marry for a second time. He was 20 years old and was going to take sannyas at the age of 24. Yet by the request of his mother, he married. As long as I am in household life, he told his mother, I must have a wife, for household life does not mean staying in a house. Real household life means living in a house with a wife.
Yeah, so this is a very important point. Grihastha doesn't mean that you just have a griha, you just have like a home, you have a house. It means that you're a team, you have a partner, you have a wife. In case of the man, if you're a woman, you have a husband. And then you have children also. That's part of grihastha. And, or else, Prabhupada would call men who just live on their own, he would call them bachelor daddies, actually. The idea that I don't need anybody. I mean, if you're a realized soul, if you're avadut, then you can just live on your own. That's great. But for most of us, that's not the case. And we need somebody to hold us accountable. We need somebody to, inspire each other. And in the case of children, this is an opportunity for us to develop this mood of service, this mood of humility, this mood of surrender, of putting somebody in front of you, because that's what we're trying to do with Krishna. We're trying to put him at the front before us, And we see parents, they go through so much trials and tribulations for their children. So even you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here, his wife died at a young age, but right away he got married again, because he understood that this is household life. I must have a wife. Okay, we can read the next verse, please.
The 10 sons of Maharaj Priyavrata were named Agnitra, Idmajiva, Yajnavahu, Mahavira, Hiranyarita, Kritaprastha, Savana, Medatithi, Vitihotra, and Kavi. These are also the names of Agni, the fire god.
Okay, 26. Okay, bye. Krishna.
3 among these 10, namely Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana, lived in complete celibacy. Thus trained in brahmachari life from the beginning of childhood, they were very conversant with the highest perfection known as the Paramahamsa ashram.
We'll read the first paragraph of that purport. For some reason, all the best is in the first paragraph. I don't know. That's how it's been going.
The word Urdhva Ritasha in this verse is very significant. Urdhva Rita refers to one who can control sex life and who, instead of wasting semen by discharging it, can use this most important substance accumulated in the body to enrich the brain. One who can completely control sex life is able to work wonderfully with his brain, especially in remembering. Thus, students who simply hear Vedic instructions once from their teacher could remember them verbatim without needing to read books which therefore did not exist in former times.
It's very interesting. I feel like I've only given a few classes here, and I feel like the last time that there was a purport about not discharging semen, so I don't know. It's very interesting. Maybe Krishna is, I mean, it's directions for brahmachari, really. And it's kind of one of those things people don't talk about so much. But it's important to talk about it, actually, because it's very powerful substance that we have in our body, the male body, I mean. And it's able to create life. It's able to create human beings. So, and it's said here, if the man is able to keep it inside, then his memory becomes really good. Like, that could be one of the reasons why back in the day Vedic instructions were just being passed down orally, that people had such good memories. But nowadays it's so ridiculous how humans are behaving with this like sex-crazed society that we're in. Even in my high school, my like sex ed teacher told me it's good to masturbate like 3 times a week. It's good for your health, you know. Imagine the amount of like life force that we're losing when we're living like this. It's like animal life, really. It's not sophisticated life. It's not civilized life, I should say. So, okay, we'll read the next verse, please.
Thus situated in the renounced order from the beginning of their lives, all 3 of them completely controlled the activities of their senses and thus became great saints. They concentrated their minds always upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the resting place of the totality of living entities, and who is therefore celebrated as Vasudev. Lord Vasudev is the only shelter of those who are actually afraid of material existence. By constantly thinking of his lotus feet, these 3 sons of Maharaj Priyavrata became advanced in pure devotional service. By the prowess of their devotional service, they could directly perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, and realize that there was qualitatively no difference between themselves and him.
I really like this line here, where in the verse it says, Lord Vasudev is the only shelter of those who are actually afraid of material existence. Who here is afraid of material existence? Why are you afraid of material existence? Can you tell me? Birth, death, old age, and disease. What's scary about that? People are getting born. That's beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing, you know? And dying is just a transition, you know? It's not the end. And disease, it makes us stronger. Why is it so scary? It hurts.
It's painful.
It's painful. How is it painful?
When you're in the womb of your mom, it's like you're in a really, really, really tiny box, like smaller than a box. You have no room. And then you have to squeeze out of this really tiny hole, and your shoulders get dislocated, and they kind of like. And then as soon as someone slaps you to make sure you're breathing, and so you cry, and then you start to get old, and your bones start cracking, and you can't. You finally have like the money and the time to do what you want to do, but now you're so old, your body's like so torn to bits that you like can't do it anyways. So there's no point. And then you get a disease, like your kidney fails or something awful happens, and then you're in a lot of pain, and all of that money that you accumulated through your life from working so hard so that you could retire nicely is now being spent on medical bills. And then you leave your body, and while you're leaving your body, you're worried, oh, who is this going to go to and who's that going to go to, and your children are arguing over your assets and not really worrying about the fact that you're leaving. They're more worried about who's the house going to go to, who's going to get the car. And you die like, and then you have to start all of that from the beginning.
Get another microphone or change the batteries, please. Yeah, so that was a great explanation. Thank you so much. Yeah, if everyone can get the chance one day to read Canto 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's very detailed explanation of the process of the embryo from a little embryo to go into like a fetus. And it's said that at some point, after many months before coming out, the little baby in the womb is actually praying. He has like consciousness. He has like Krishna consciousness even, and he's praying. He's like, "Oh my Lord, I'm gonna have to go out into this material world, and I'm gonna forget you. Please help me not forget you, and please make this my last birth. Something like that." And that's why actually Shukadev Goswami, he spent 16 years in the womb of his mother before, because he's like, I'm not going out there. I know the material energy is just gonna just take over me, and I'm gonna forget you, Krishna. So he literally needed like Krishna himself to go and tell him in the womb. He's like, it's okay, you can come out. You're gonna be self-realized. You're gonna remember me. It's gonna be okay. But that's not the case for most of us, right? Did you have something you wanted to say? Kevin, can we pass the microphone, please? The part
Hare Krishna.
In the Canto 3, yeah.
Yeah, the main symptom of distress being that we have to forget Krishna again and try to, if we're fortunate, come in touch with this, bona fide spiritual master again who can teach us. And I just like thought of a really bleak scenario like in the human life, which would be like akin to like losing your memory, like having dementia, like your whole life, and a loved one having to take care of you, and you have no idea that person's even taking care of you, and not being able to reciprocate with them. I mean, that's how bleak. That's the only like example in the human life I can think of, but yeah, it's like painful,
And it's not uncommon, actually. It's very common that this happens. It happened to my uncle recently. For many years he had dementia, and we were just losing him. He was still there, but he wasn't there. And less people go and visit him, And I saw him like the last few days, and it's really sad. I tried to recite Bhagavad Gita to him and chant to him. I think he heard. I hope it did something. But it might sound like we're being very like pessimistic, but it's important that we understand the reality in this material world. And the thing is, we don't have to suffer though. If we're engaged in bhakti, if we're serious about our spiritual life, if we're doing everything we're doing right now, we can still be somewhat happy. It's compared to like, we're like a fish out of water right now. A fish out of water is not very happy. He's just flopping around, he's not having a good time. But when you're in this temple, when you're in the association of devotees, it's kind of like the fish is put into a fishbowl. So the fishbowl is like, okay, at least I can breathe. I'm around other fishes, but still, you're still in the material world. You can't get out of the fishbowl. So it's kind of like that. At least we're in the fishbowl. Let's just try and stay in the fishbowl until, at the end of our life, hopefully we can go back to the ocean, go back to Godhead. So we'll read the next verse, please.
And his other wife, Maharaj Priyavrata, begot 3 sons named Uttama, Tamasa, and Revata. All of them later took charge of Manavantara millenniums.
I just wanted to quickly clarify what a Manvantara is. So it said in purport, every day of Brahma there are 14 Manvantaras. The duration of one Manvantara, the lifespan of one Manu, is 71 yugas. And each yuga is 4,320,000 years. So you have one yuga that would include all of the 4 yugas, right? One yuga would be like, because every yuga has a different length. So what I'm understanding here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when it says one yuga, it means the combination of the 4 yugas, like Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So that would be a total of 4,320,000 years. And for each one of these yugas, if you have 71 of those, that's the lifespan of one Manu. And then the duration of one, which is one Manvantara, is the lifespan of one Manu. And then one day of Lord Brahma is 14 Manvantaras. So you can only imagine how long just one day of Lord Brahma is. And how long does Lord Brahma live for? 100 years. 100 of his years. Anyways, we can keep going, please. Yeah, let's do the Sanskrit for 29, please. Oh, that's kind of crazy. Maybe we'll just skip that. We'll go to the synonym. Okay, we'll just do the translation then. After Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana were completely trained in the Paramahamsa stage. Sorry, you can read, Prabhu. You read it, please.
After Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana were completely trained in the Paramahamsa stage of life, Maharaj Priyavrata ruled the universe for 11 Adbhutas of years. Whenever he was determined to fix his arrow upon his bowstring with 2 powerful arms, all opponents of the regulative principles of religious life would flee from his presence in fear of the unparalleled prowess he displayed in ruling the universe. He greatly loved his wife Barheshmati. With the increase of this, their exchange of nuptial love
That's like conjugal, like marriage love, by the way, nuptial.
Love also increased by her feminine behavior as she dressed herself, walked, got up, smiled, laughed, and glanced about. Queen Barheshmati increased his energy. Thus, although he was a great soul, he appeared lost in the feminine conduct of his wife. He behaved with her just like an ordinary man, but actually he was a great soul.
I just want to clarify a little bit. What is the Paramahamsa stage of life? Does anybody know? Swan. It's when you become a swan. So it's described in the purport of the last verse. I didn't go into it because we don't have so much time. But there's actually 4 stages of sannyas. So sannyas is the renounced order of life. It's when you just let go of the material world entirely. And I don't know all 4, but I know the last 2. There's Parivrajacharya. Yeah, that's what we say, like, in the Premadwani prayers. Like, we say that Srila Prabhupada was a Parivrajacharya, which is the stage where the sannyasi just travels all over the world, or just travels all around and to preach. So he doesn't stay in one place, which Prabhupada definitely did. He's did the whole world like 12 times, I think. 13? 14. Okay. And then Paramahamsa is a stage after that. That's the final stage of sannyas, which is when you don't go anywhere, you don't really associate with other living entities on earth, you're just in your bhajan, you're just, chanting and hearing nonstop. You're just completely focusing all your attention on the Lord. So you see that these three sons of Maharaj Parivrata, they were brahmacharis and they were trained in the Paramahamsa stage of life. But anyways, we'll read the purport. I'll just read it. In this verse, the word dharma pratipaksha, opponents of religious principles, refers not to a particular faith, but to varnashram dharma, division of society, socially and spiritually into 4 varnas, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and shudra, and 4 ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. To maintain proper social order and to help the citizens gradually progress towards the goal of life, namely spiritual understanding, the principles of varnashrama dharma must be accepted. From this verse, Maharaj Parivrata appears to have been so strict in maintaining this institution of varnashram dharma that anyone neglecting it would immediately flee from his presence as soon as the king warned him by fighting or administering light punishment. Indeed, Maharaj Parivrata would not have to fight, for simply because of his strong determination, they dared not disobey the rules and regulations of varnashram dharma. It is said that unless human society is regulated by varnashram dharma, it is no better than a bestial society of cats and dogs. Maharaj Parivrata therefore strictly maintained varnashram dharma by his extraordinary, unparalleled prowess. So he was leading by example. He didn't have to use force. He didn't have to scare people or give them punishments or anything. Just by his example of being like a perfect grihastha, a perfect follower of varnashram dharma, that he was educated. He was aware of what does a person do when he's in grihastha, or what does a person do when he's a kshatriya? In the case of him, he was a kshatriya. He was meant to rule. He was meant to defend. And he was doing that perfectly, and so everybody followed suit. So this is what we need in terms of a leader. And I've noticed in temples that's the case, actually. I've been quite a few different temples, and the better that the leader is leading by example, you see that it trickles down into the community as well. That if the leader is performing kshatriya well as like a leader, and performing grihastha well, then you see that the other families in the community also are inspired and they follow suit like that. So the leader is very, very important, actually. To maintain such a life of strict vigilance, one needs, and I must say Nrsimharupa Prabhu is pretty awesome. I just wanted to point that out. He's really great. If you're listening, I don't know. To maintain such a life of strict vigilance, one needs encouragement from his wife. In the varnashram dharma system, certain classes, such as the brahmanas and sannyasis, do not need encouragement from the opposite sex. Kshatriyas and grihasthas, however, actually need the encouragement of their wives in order to execute their duties. Indeed, a grihastha or a kshatriya cannot properly execute his responsibilities without the association of his wife. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally admitted that a grihastha must live with a wife. Kshatriyas were even allowed to have many wives to encourage them in discharging the duties of government. The association of a good wife is necessary in a life of karma and political affairs. To execute his duties properly, therefore, Maharaj Priyavrata took advantage of his good wife, Barhishmati, who was always very expert in pleasing her great husband by properly dressing herself, smiling, and exhibiting her feminine bodily features. Queen Barhishmati always kept Maharaj Parivrata very encouraged, and thus he executed his governmental duty very properly. In this verse, Eva has twice been used to indicate that Maharaj Parivrata acted exactly like a hen-pecked husband, and thereby seemed to have lost his sense of human responsibility. So in case you're not familiar, you can imagine the hen is like the female, and she's just constantly pecking at her husband, like, do this, do that. So that's what that word means, I think. Actually, however, he was fully conscious of his position as a spirit soul. Although he seemingly behaved like an acquiescent karmi husband, Maharaj Parivrata thus ruled the universe for 11 arbudas of years. One arbuda consists of 100 million years. 100 million years, Krishna. And Maharaj Parivrata ruled the universe for 11 such Buddhas. So there was 2 points I wanted to focus on. The first one is the importance of a wife for a certain type of men. So it did say the exception here, that if you're in the category, if you have the psychophysical nature, okay, goodbye, Hare Krishna. If you have the psychophysical nature or the karma to be either a brahmana, the intellectual priestly class, or a sannyasi, then you don't need that encouragement from the opposite sex. But it's said here for kshatriyas and grihastas, is very beneficial to have support. They always say, what do they say? Behind every great man is a great woman, or something like that. They always say that, right? It's true. We have the proof right there. And so much so that in ancient times, some kings actually had multiple wives. Like, I need even more encouragement. I need even more backup. So it's like that. And another point that I wanted to focus on was that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. We shouldn't, we see a man that he's very much involved in his family life, and he's very much trying to please his wife, and you could assume that he's in Maya, he's not a pure devotee. And there's a great story that I've heard, and if you know the names, I would appreciate. I'm really bad with the names. But I think it was Srila Sanatana Goswami, and he was invited to go visit a devotee, and he was told that this was a great devotee. And but he got to the house, and he saw it was a big, fancy mansion, and the man was living very opulently. What was the names? Do you know? Gadadhar Pandit, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Thank you. So it was Gadadhar Pandit, and he went to visit Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Anyways, and he didn't say anything out loud, but he had some thoughts of kind of skepticism, being like, really, this is pure devotee, look at him, he's living so nice, he looks like he's so much entangled in his sense gratification. So then who else was there? Swarup Damodar? Yeah, there was another great devotee, and he could sense that Gadadhar Pandit was having some judgmental thoughts. And so what did he do? He started to recite verses from Srimad Bhagavatam to kind of test Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And what did Pundarik Vidyanidhi Prabhu do? He just rolled on the floor in ecstasy, and he started to exhibit high levels of symptoms of pure love of God. And so right away, Gadadhar Pandit felt really remorseful, and he's like, oh no, I messed up big time. He's like, this is definitely a pure devotee. So we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Even I had a similar experience in Toronto. I was invited to a program for a weekend. It was a weekend. I had no information. I knew it was kind of like a conference, and a bunch of devotees were getting together. They were talking about farm communities and these kinds of things, like cow protection. I was like, I'd love to go to that. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I got there, and it was a giant mansion, unbelievable, so big. And that's where I stayed at for the weekend. And right away, the mind goes to this is a devotee, or at least my mind. But he preached at me like I wouldn't even believe. He knows the Bhagavatam back and forth, and he's using this house in Krishna's service wonderfully. They have lots of cows, and they're hosting big programs, and my Guru Maharaj was there, and anyways, so it's about how you use your wealth. It's not about having wealth or opulence. So I'm gonna stop here. I think because we don't have that much time, and I don't want to keep you guys over time. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or reflections on the topic? If not, I have Krista has some thoughts.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, what a nice class. Lots of very interesting points. I was curious why, like, how does the Brahmana get encouragement in this sense? Because it says that, or also, like, we see, like, Grihastha Brahmanas, too. Anyways, I was just a little curious, like, what is it about the Brahmanas in which they don't need that kind of encouragement?
Well, a Brahmana, what does the word Brahmana mean? One who knows Brahman, one who has strong connection, ties to Brahman or to God or to Krishna. And so he has such a strong link there, such a strong sangha with the Lord, that he never feels like alone. He doesn't feel like I need the backup or I need the support. They could be like self-satisfied in a way. But like you said, the term Brahmana is a bit different when it comes to us, because Prabhupada taught us that anyone from any varna could become a Brahmana, which means to have spiritual intelligence and to and we have specifically like the second initiation stage where you can become a Brahmana. So it's an interesting question. I'm curious if anybody else has any thoughts on that. Why does a Brahmana not need a wife or doesn't need that encouragement?
The Brahman is encouraged by people who want to listen about Krishna. So in families where you have a Brahmin family, then the family's usually interested in hearing about Krishna, and so they can share Krishna consciousness. So
that's a good point.
That's not necessarily needed by all Brahmins. They can, if they have the facility to talk about Krishna and teach Krishna consciousness, then that's very pleasing to the Brahmin.
That's a very good point. Yeah, they're constantly getting encouragement because they're constantly preaching, and so they get encouragement by people who reciprocate. People give, donations. People take care of them. They feed them. These kinds of things. So the Brahmana always feels taken care of. And actually, they are the leaders in society, or at least they're supposed to be. On the outside, it looks like the Kshatriyas are, but the Kshatriyas are supposed to take directions from the Brahmanas. So they're always feeling supported. Anjari Gopika, please.
Very well. Yes, I was just going to elaborate on that. Well, Kshatriyas are in the mode of passion. I'm assuming here by grouping them together, Grihastha and Kshatriya, that both are in the mode of passion. Although I know Kshatriya is mixed. It's goodness. And the Brahmanas are just mode of goodness. And saying the Brahmanas, they're completely reliant. So Brahmanas are completely dependent on the Lord. In this verse, in the purport, it's explicitly stating to execute their duties and responsibilities. The Kshatriyas and Grihasthas need encouragement from their partner. The Kshatriyas have to go out and defend. They're constantly looking for injustice to correct it and also prevent it. So, when you're in the mode of passion, you need more little bit of passion to keep going. Without passion, nothing moves. And the Brahmanas, they're supposed to really be more in place, accepting whatever comes. So in that way, I don't think they need the encouragement of their partner to fulfill their responsibilities. They're just accepting whatever God gives them.
That's a good point, actually. That was really nice. The Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, they're doers. They do a lot of things usually. They're very active, very busy. So they need support for all these activities, all these projects. If you're managing, you're managing a temple, you're managing a house, you're managing so many things. It's really hard to do on your own. Like I'm thinking of the temple president in Ottawa, Krishna Dulal Prabhu. He works like crazy. He has like so many businesses, so many projects. He runs a school, he has a music school, he has so many things. And I know he could never do it without his wonderful wife. But then a Brahmana is more of a thinker, A Brahmana worships the deity, the Brahmana preaches, the Brahmana does his bhajan and these things. So that doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need a wife there to do that, perhaps, is my thinking. When you're very active, like you said, in the mode of passion, do. You need somebody to cook, You need somebody to like do the laundry, do the dishes, take care of the kids, these kinds of things. And anybody else have anything you wanted to add to that? I wanted to, there's a couple verses I wanted to just look at before we close. If you can put CC Madhya 558, please. Just go to the translation. This is an interesting verse. I just looked up in Vani quotes what Prabhupada said about 858. I just looked up in Vani quote all of the different times that Prabhupada mentions Varnashram Dharma and all of the lectures and books. And this was one of the most quoted verses that he quoted, was C.C. Madhya 858. It's very interesting. So you can just read the translation. You don't have to read Can somebody read this? I'll just read it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Varnas and Ashramas. What do you think this means? Seems a little bit strange. That's the only way to please the Supreme Personality, by executing the prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. What do you think this means? You don't know? Well, what's going on? Well, there's another verse. If you go to Srimad Bhagavatam 1-13, it kind of explains this. Sorry to make you go all over the place. But this verse explains it quite well. Just go to the translation, please. So, O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's occupation, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the personality of Godhead. So it sounds a little bit contradictory. One side it says, just follow Varnashram Dharma, and that's the best way to please the Lord. And the other way it says, the best way to the highest perfection of Varnashram Dharma is just to please the personality of Godhead. So the point here is that we cannot please the personality of Godhead if we're not following Varnashram Dharma. We have to. Let's say if my nature is Kshatriya and I'm artificially trying to be a Brahmana, I'm not going to be able to please the Supreme Lord properly. I'm not going to be able to satisfy him. Or if I'm meant to be a Grihastha, but my false ego makes me want to artificially remain renounced and remain brahmachari. My thoughts are going to be in Maya, even though I'm pretending to be renounced. And so Varnashram Dharma is the basis of our spiritual life, of our spiritual advancement. So it's important that we take the time to reflect on what is my nature, what is my duty, and also to take time to study what does a Kshatriya do, what are the qualities. In the Bhagavad Gita, they're all explained, and it's explained deeper in the Bhagavatam. What's the qualities of a Brahmana? What's the qualities of a Kshatriya? What are the duties? Is very important. But even deeper than that, the goal of Varnashram we should always keep in mind is to please the Lord. Is not just to enjoy the material world. So that's all I had to say. Thank you everybody for attentive listening. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande.